Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today I have for you a different kind of presentation, so just bear with me. Today I'm going to talk about the Smith & Wesson Model 39. Um, so a couple things to point out here. I've just recently decided to go back to the range, start practicing again with firearms. But I decided to check out some videos on YouTube, and I did find some videos actually of various handguns from the Smith & Wesson Model 39 family, the extended family, and understand it's actually quite a large family, especially when you start getting into the Generation 3 Model 39s. And the thing to point out is a lot of people talked about the handgun as in past tense. Of course, it is a lot of people are going to talk about the handgun in past tense. The Generation 3s were produced from like 1987 to 1991. Most people aren't even old enough to remember when this handgun was brand new. That is younger than me. Um, what's going to make this presentation a bit different is, well, first off, a lot of it's going to be off the cuff, even though I do have some notes and things written down. But the thing to point out is a lot of the people that were doing the videos on the Smith & Wesson Model 39s and were showing off their Model 39s was literally talking about the handgun in a past tense. There was a lot of people that were actually young, much younger than me, probably in their 20s. Some of them even probably a little younger still. Uh, and they didn't per se, know the handgun when it was a brand new handgun. I myself, I have one here. I have a Model 3904. It's a Generation 3 Model 39. I'm going to show it off here a little bit. I'm going to talk first a little bit about the history of the Model 39, and then we'll continue with other additional information. So the Smith & Wesson Model 39 was developed for the U.S. Army as a service pistol for the service pistol trials of 1954. After the U.S. abandoned its search for a new pistol, the Model 39 would go on to the civilian market in 1955. The Model 39 was the first designed double action American pistol. Before this, there was no. The main handgun for the U.S. military was actually a single action semi automatic, which means the hammer needs pulled back when you first fire the handgun. I'll explain that a bit more later. And it was a big deal at the time. The market wasn't at the time flooded with double action semi automatic handguns like it is now. Of course, Germany had their own double action semi automatic handgun with the Walter P38. And that's actually what brought this about, is the U.S. military was impressed by the Walter P38. So they put out, the Army Ordnance Corps issued a proposal for an American equivalent of the Walter P38. In 1949, Smith & Wesson would begin development of the Model 39, chambered in 9x19 millimeter Luger. The Model 39 would also be the basis for the Model 59 as well. Now, the Model 59 generally is very similar to the Model 39. The big thing is it's got a wider grip because it takes a 14-shot double stacked magazine, where the Model 39 was actually designed with an 8-shot single stack magazine, which I'll show that here in a bit as well. Illinois State Police would adopt the Model 39 in 1967. A special version of the Model 39 was also created for use by Naval Special Warfare Units. Navy SEALs, if you will, although I believe this predates the Navy SEALs even. This model was the Mark 22 Mod 0 Hush Puppy. It had a 14-shot double-stack magazine, suppressor, and raised gun sights to accommodate the suppressor. It also, the slide had a slide lock. So when you fired the pistol, the slide would not slide back and eject the spent casing and chamber a new round. The reason for this is because the gun was actually designed for taking out enemy sentries and dogs. Hence is the term hush puppy. All right, so that's going to be it for the history of the Model 39. Now I'm going to actually show the Model 39. I'm also going to go over a couple things here. All right, so this is the Model 3904. And please bear with me. I'm not actually used to having the camera set up in the position it's set up in. Now, whenever handling a firearm, the first thing you should do is eject the magazine, which the magazine is empty. I actually know this is empty, but I'm going through the processes anyway. And I'm going to open it up, lock the slide, and check the chamber. Make sure there's nothing in there, which there's not. Now, a couple features about this. It does have, this is a safety decock. So when the hammer's back and I hit the safety decock, which it's ambidextrous, it's on both sides of the handgun. So if you're left-handed, you can do it with your left hand. If you're right-handed, which I'm right-handed, you can do it with your right hand. It decocks the hammer, lets the trigger go forward, and it does not fire the round. It puts the firearm on safe. Now, the thing is about double actions. Now, this one actually has a magazine safety. Now, what that means is because I have no magazine loaded in the gun, even if I had a round chambered and on fire, the gun will not fire. One of the reviewers going over this particular handgun was actually complaining about that, saying that, oh, well, it's a very 90s thing. No, it's not a very 90s thing. Trigger or magazine safeties predate the Brady Bill of the 90s. So if any of you watch the video, I'm not going to mention the YouTuber's name. He was blowing shit out of his ass. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Because it does, the magazine safeties are actually quite old. They actually even predate the model of, or the Model 39 in particular. Now, the things to point out here, this is a Generation 4. It actually has different sights. It has a fully adjustable rear sight and a fixed front sight. And to sight it, there is, this might be the problem, there is 3 dots that you have to line up. There you go. You can see the dots there, but you line them up just right, which I can't do looking at the gun like this. Roughly like that, and then you pull the trigger. This particular model has a 4-inch barrel, which I'll actually do a disassembly here. And the barrel is actually stainless steel. The frame is aluminum, which keeps this actually under 2 pounds. It's roughly 1.7 pounds. The slide, however, is steel, and that keeps it very durable. That's actually one feature I do like. Now, so the difference between a double action and a single action, I'm going to load the magazine here. The magazine is, once again, the magazine is empty, folks. This is actually an aftermarket magazine, which works perfectly well in the Smith & Wesson here. When we got the Smith & Wesson Model 3904 here, we actually bought this brand new. My father bought it brand new. I want to say it was like $250, $300. It's now almost a $400 handgun. It's like $375, $390, somewhere around there, is the suggested MSRP, if I recall. You know what? Let me pull that back up. Sorry, the suggested MSRP is $541. This was last updated 7/6/2019. Used estimated is $375. That's just the MSRP. This gun's actually increased in value over years, and that's one nice thing about firearms, as long as you take care of them, which this one's actually perfectly taken care of. It's actually almost in the same condition that it was when it came out of the box back in, I want to say we got this back in like 1991, 1992. So it's been in the family for quite a long time. It's actually now my handgun. I take care of it. And yeah, fortunately, between me actually growing up with this handgun and my training from the service. Uh, I take pretty good care of it. I make sure everything's clean and oiled and taken care of on a regular basis. Now, today, this is actually going to be a little dirty because I was just recently out on the range with it. Okay, a couple features to point out. Now, this is a double action. What that means, if you look at the hammer, is if I had it round chambered, it would fire. Okay, now a single action though, and of course the slide would come back, enter a new shell, slide would rock forward, and the hammer would be back in the lock position, and I can easily fire again. As you can see too, the trigger is also in a locked back position, where compared to the double action position, the trigger is actually more forward, it actually gives it a heavier trigger pull and a longer trigger pull. So having the hammer back is actually a more accurate shot because it's easier to pull back. It's not as the trigger doesn't have to travel as far to fire the handgun, things of that nature. Now with a single action semi-automatic, if you don't know, when you pull the handgun out of your holster and you're prepared to fire, a single action will not fire like this. You actually have to pull the hammer back and then you can fire your first shot. And then it'll go through the processes like a normal handgun where the slide will come back, eject the old casing, lock the hammer back. And as it slides forward, a new casing will enter the chamber. Okay, so that's the differences between a semi-automatic and a double action. Now the next thing here I'm going to talk about, bear with me. This is the first time I've done a video like this. Actually, congratulations YouTubers. It's the first time you're actually seeing me on camera. Okay, so I guess what we'll do is we'll do a teardown of the handgun so you can see some of the features. Now this particular model, because it's a Generation 3, I want to point out it actually has plastic grips. And they're pretty good. They're pretty good. It's got a diamond cut pattern on the sides. And then it's got a diamond cut pattern on the rear, where it's got slits in the frame on the front. And the grips I think the grips can be changed. I don't know. I've actually never messed with that. I've never had to tear the grips off. I feel the grip is perfectly fine. My only complaint with this handgun, of all things, is that the grip is actually just a little too thin for my hands. Sometimes when I'm firing, and especially if I'm firing quickly in quick successions, the gun will kind of turn a little bit in my hand. As I practice with it, I become more and more aware of that, so I can quickly adjust to that. It's not like the Beretta it's not like the Beretta M9 that's got a wide grip because it's got a double stack magazine. Okay, so yeah, let's do a teardown here quick. I'll show you some of the internal parts. Now this part is a pain in the butt because once again, this particular handgun's been well conditioned and well taken care of. And there actually hasn't been a lot of rounds fired out of this. I don't even think we've broken 1,000 rounds out of this yet. Actually, I would say we've barely fired 500 out of it. It is a good handgun, but essentially outside of a handgun that was purchased for concealed carry, we don't really fire the handgun that often. Outside, as I said, once again, outside of concealed carry. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of doing a teardown. The video might go a little long here too, folks, so bear with me. So we'll drop the magazine. Once again, we're going to rack back the slide, look in the chamber, make sure it's clear. And then what you have to do is you have to pull it back a little bit, and there's a pin here you have to push out, which can be difficult, and sometimes you need a little extra force to get it out. A little side pin here. still being a bit stubborn getting out. There you go. A little side pin here. And that's actually what holds the whole thing together. And then I'll take off the slide. So here we go. We got the slide here. Now you're not going to see me reassemble it because I'm actually going to clean this. So right here's the lower part, the frame. And as I said, this is actually aluminum. And then it's got a plastic grip. Keeps it very lightweight. This weighs nothing. Like literally. Not even a can. It doesn't even weigh as much as a can of soda. Can of soda. Is that a reference anybody understands anymore? 12-ounce can of soda. 12-ounce can of beer, if you will. Okay, so, and then here we have, now this can be, there we go. We have the guide rod here, and then the spring. I guess I should have shown it inside. Let me reassemble that really quick. So there you go. There's the inside of the slide. There's the working stuff. Once again, you know, it's a little filthy because it's just been out of the range. Don't mind me. I'm looking at my computer I'm recording on and trying to look at the camera at the same time. So now we're just going to push that forward a little bit. Lift up, and the spring comes right on out. And then you have your guide rod and your spring. As you can see, it's pretty clean. Some of the balloons wearing off. And then the spring's just absolutely clean. Well taken care of. I'll take the barrel out of the slide. Now this is as simple as just pushing forward. Well, you got to lift up a little bit, push forward, lift up more. Of course, now it doesn't want to work with me. There we go. Don't mind my hands. Sometimes they don't want to function. So here we go. We got a nice dirty barrel here. Look at all that dirt. Shooting out a lot of 9mm. We got to get that cleaned up before it gets reassembled. But the barrel is stainless. Not all barrels on the Smith & Wessons are stainless. Just this particular model is, which is really nice. The barrel stays in very good condition. It's also got a groove here. And that's actually to lock the barrel in the slide. I don't know how well you'll see this because that's all black. But if you look, there's a small groove right there. And that's actually where that locks into. Well, yeah, so there you go. There's a teardown of the Smith & Wesson Model 3904. As I said, it's a Generation 3 Smith & Wesson. It's a very good handgun. Generally, I watched 4 different YouTubers talk about the handgun. There was one guy, he was quite a bit older than I was. He generally sounded like he knew what he was talking about. He generally enjoyed the handgun. There was these 2 kids that also did a review on it. And they talked about the handgun for a bit. But as I said, they talked about it in past tense. What I'm presenting you here today is my actual experience with the handgun since the day we bought it off the shelf. I've always enjoyed the handgun. I think it's a lot of fun to play with. It is a good concealed carry handgun. The adjustable sights can adjust left and right and up and down for windage. So it's just generally it's a good, decent handgun. Is it a Beretta? No, it's not a Beretta. It's not a Colt. But for America's first attempt at making a double action semi-automatic handgun, they did actually a very good job on it. So kudos to Smith & Wesson. Smith & Wesson actually really controlled the market at the time too. They had a large number of double action handguns from the Model 39 series and its derived family members. You get them all in all stainless. You could get them with steel. A lot of them were the alloy frame. You can get them with double stack magazines. You can get them with slightly longer barrels, shorter barrels, different calibers. Honestly, I think personally, if you're going to own a Smith & Wesson semi-automatic handgun, now understand, I've owned 2 different Smith & Wesson handguns. This one here, and it was a Smith & Wesson 40 VE, which is from the Sigma series, which was absolute fucking hot garbage. Don't recommend that gun at all. And then I fired 2 different guns from the M&P series. The M&P series isn't bad. I really don't like the trigger safety to them, but they're better than the Sigma series. That's not hard. Just be reliable. Um, I have no love for the Sigma series, but generally between those handguns, we're talking an old generation handgun that's over 20 years old and more modern generation handguns. Any day of the week, I'll take this older generation handgun, I'll pick it up, load it up, and put lead on target every time. Can't say the same thing for the other series. This will fire every time. The most rounds I fired out of this at one time was about 300 rounds. I've never had jams, never had stoppages. But once again, the handgun's well taken care of, so that's a part of the process. It's pretty easy to clean, pretty easy to maintain. You don't have to do anything special to it. But yeah, so anyway, folks, hopefully you did enjoy watching this video, and let me know your thoughts in the video description. Because actually, I'd like to do more videos like this down the road. I do have other firearms I can talk about. Because there's actually quite a few firearms, I personally own that just are no longer on the market except for used because they haven't made a new model of it in a long, long time. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for watching the video, and hopefully I will see you for the next one.